good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world, to our latest installment of the In Conversation podcast. Today I have got with me a researcher, practitioner, who is doing, again, something slightly different to all of my other conversational partners. So I'm really excited to have a different view again, as we're going to be talking about practice as research. So Helen, this is Helen Ross, everybody. Helen, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hiya, yeah, my name's Helen Ross. I'm a researcher. I'm currently in a school building partway through different meetings, so there might be a little bit of background noise, and I'm stealing a staff room and people are being very kind. I'm a dyslexia specialist, so I research dyslexia. I look at how kids do the classroom with dyslexia, how teachers do supporting kids with dyslexia in the classroom, and I'm a lucky so-and-so because I get to talk to people and get paid for it and hopefully make useful differences to kids' journeys. So I'm a very lucky soul.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this introduction. So let's go straight into our conversation. How do you define or describe your work, the kind of the practice as research that you are doing?
Well, it's funny at the minute. I'm actually doing some research with a company that does some educational tech, and so I get to, the teaching I do actually can also be part of the sort of journey that I use for research. Obviously, you never use research without asking children about it. Is it all right if I use this? And you get parental consent. But literally the teaching, the interactions I have with my kids, what they find tricky, what they find easy, how we can help them, that is my research. And I'm lucky that I've got segues in, but because I'm a teacher, I've got that kind of segue into different research settings, which is really cool. And because I'm dyslexic as well, so if the kid says they find something tricky, I'm like, yeah, I totally get that. Like reading, there's a really massive thing at the moment, and one of my research bugbears and my teaching bugbears is we have to like teach children they must love reading. I'm like, come on, you don't tell kids they've got to love hockey or like algebra. I'm like, I love algebra, but you're not forcing a love of something that they find tricky on them. So reading, where you've told you've got to love it, does my head in. Yeah, you've got to be able to do it. It's not the same. So I think part of my kind of researcher's practice is all about lived experience. And I live that same hating reading thing that so many of, especially my year sevens, I live that same journey they do. So it's really tricky.
Thank you very much. I mean, I understand the kind of the practitioner research that you're doing. I mean, the part that for me is really interesting is because it's quite similar to what I have always been doing when I was still a secondary school teacher, that you are teaching and researching your own practice at the same time, and you're building on that. But that comes with huge difficulties, doesn't it? What are the challenges that you identify?
I think ethics is a big one, because you don't want to include stuff by mistake, inadvertently. Like this project I'm doing at the moment, I am working with some kids that I teach as well, but I've spoken to parents, I've spoken to the kids. I'm like, are you sure you want to do it? And so it's making sure that you're not kind of taking a liberty with what you do, because that really matters. Like it matters so much that you're not disrespecting your students and their journeys, and you don't want to make something public inadvertently. And I do a research project as well with Swansea Uni, and it's about climate change. But because I work at the minute at Stonehenge School, just by Stonehenge, bizarrely enough, funny that, and we haven't run the project in my school because I think there's a potential conflict of interest. If I'm researching it, I don't want to do it in my own setting, despite the fact that the programme's fab. And I love my school. Like my school is such a lovely, lovely place to work at. But it's just two things that I don't mix those two. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know, but it's what I'm comfortable with. And I think it's ethics. It's not inadvertently taking a liberty and being respectful of other people's privacy, journeys, professionalism. Yeah, that's my real. You got to be really careful with that.
When you're comparing the kind of the two different research settings, the one where you're saying you kind of it's more like a conventional traditional research, and then the other one where you're doing practitioner research, do you experience any kind of differences as to how that research is viewed or valued or evaluated?
Yeah, definitely. I call it, I'm allowed to say it because I'm a qualitative researcher primarily. I do warm fuzzies. Quant people aren't allowed to say that. It's like I can say it because I do it. But I think because so much of the research paradigm we're within at the moment, particularly under the current like governmental flavour, is this sort of positivist numbers, quantitative. We've got to have like big data, that kind of annoys. It's really important to have big data because it tells you trends, it predicts things, but you also need these smaller scale, really in-depth, meaty kind of getting to grips with people's journeys. How does the big data make people feel? How does it actually impact on each individual? And I think because I do the kind of warm fuzzy, how does it impact on people? People don't necessarily give it the same level of credence because it's a smaller scale, but it's, you're measuring different things. And people that have done, PPE, they've gone the kind of correct way through and ended up in government doing PPE or whatever. They don't accept different flavors of success and information from what they've decided within their positivist, it's quite patriarchal kind of traditional framework. They don't accept it as data. They'd like it's anecdote, and that really annoys me because it's all data. It's just telling you different things, different metrics, different purposes, different uses, but equally important.
I agree with you. Yeah, this is you preaching to the converted already. I totally agree with you on this one. It's just interesting for me to kind of hear, how in different disciplines, practitioner research may be viewed in different ways. So I always get the feeling that within the setting, people recognize it as, this is proper research, this counts, this is valuable, this is important. So when you're doing educational practice-based research or practice as research in an educational setting, other teachers will value it and will take from it what whatever the recommendations or strengths are. But if you then get somebody else from a different discipline reading that, it's almost like this is not quite valued in the same way.
No, it's the obsession with RCTs, isn't it? Randomized control trials. They have a place, they have a purpose. But when you've got a kid who at home is horrifically wobbly and they haven't had breakfast and they've missed the bus and they've lost the quid to get back home, like, using big data doesn't predict their experience of the school day. Talk to the child. Like, if you talk to a person, you get what they're doing. You can't predict if someone's not had breakfast, or home is terribly wobbly, or home is amazing but kids got out the wrong side of bed. You can't. And teachers get that, and I think that's why I've graduated. My PhD was 2017, so for the last 5 years I've managed to stay in the classroom because that journey matters. Teachers' views matter, whereas people that do big data, or like people that are purely based at uni, haven't got a clue what goes on in a classroom with year 9 on a Friday afternoon when it's windy. Like,
I know,
or year
yes.
7. It's really hard. It matters that people listen to people that do the job, because otherwise paper-based policy is utterly disconnected from what people need to do. It's why I became a teacher in the first place and got really stroppy with the government, because I worked in Barnsley for many years, and the ambient kind of literacy level in Barnsley 10 years ago was national curriculum level 4 and 5 at the time, which was like, what, about 11-year-old level?
Yes.
And then you've got idiots in government saying, well, teach children Shakespeare. And no. Well, yeah, okay, I'll get it. Give them cultural capital, work with their own cultural capital. Let's get them reading first and functionally literate so that they can do life. And once you can do that, then you get into the reading of Shakespeare. I'm not saying don't work on Shakespeare type stuff, because that again would be really snobby and wrong, but people need to be able to do vital skills. And you've got it won't go ad hominem. People who haven't lived the journey in government, who went to private schools with 10 kids in their class, haven't got a clue what it is to teach 25 kids in a mining town where the job prospects are nothing. Like, shut up. Listen to people that do the job. It just makes me really cross.
No, I totally understand where you're coming from, and in many ways you've kind of already touched upon kind of the benefits of practice as research. That it's kind of closer to the ground, and it's almost like a grassroots way of doing research. So yeah,
absolutely. I think you need both. You need people that do big data, that come in and kind of have an external view, because they have a really valid, like, what's the word, perspective but it needs to mesh from both levels. You can't change structures. You can't keep structures valid, useful, functioning, dynamic if you don't listen to people that are within the structures. You need both.
Yes.
I'm just a passionate believer of just actually listening to people and respecting them. It's so
I
important.
totally agree with you. So can I just ask, when you're talking about your practice as research, the kind of the work that you do within the context of practice as research, is there any particular kind of body of literature that you use to gauge your work, or to evaluate your own work, or to define your own work perhaps?
I'm a Bourdieu bod. It's weird. I did teach. My first degree is mechanical engineering because I liked hitting stuff, and it was fun, like breaking stuff genuinely. But I moved over towards sort of more being in Barnsley towards educationalism. I never really engaged with like Piaget. A little bit of whoever was it did zones of proximal development. Vygotsky. I did a little bit.
Yes,
I've never
Vygotsky.
really kind of. Educationalism just seemed a bit too small for me, so I've always hooked more into the sociological, theoretical framework. So Bourdieu really chimes with me because you're in it, you're subject to it, you produce it, because education does, like, it produces a very, very narrow version of people,
Yes.
potentially. And because we've got these kind of structures that produce, you must do 5 A stars to C or 4s to 9 or whatever. Everyone's got to be academic. Heaven forbid you want to be a plumber, because oh my goodness, no, that's not good enough. Like, so Bourdieu really chimes for me. I've made my own, say, little theoretical framework. You've probably seen, like, it was based on a light fitting that I got in Wilco's that I saw, and I've kind of used that to make my own understanding of the social world as well. But that's absolutely based on all the readings I've done from Bourdieu and just taking it a little bit further. Like, we all do that, don't we? You kind of read stuff and go, oh, I like it, but yeah. So the nice thing about Bourdieu and that kind of emancipatory type framework is it's about justice, and it's about giving people, empowering people through respectful listening.
Yeah, I thank you. I can see where you're coming from. I mean, a lot of the times, the reason I'm asking is a lot of the times people in educational settings tend to draw on Schoen, you know, with the reflective practitioner and his idea of research, reflection in action and reflection on action, you know, is basically kind of the first step towards defining what makes research. But then the question is, where's the difference between the reflection and the research? Is there a difference? Does there have to be a difference? I don't even know that.
I mean, to be honest, though, that's not that different from like a Bourdieusian kind of ontology and epistemology. Like, because objectifying this. I haven't got enough caffeine or blood in my caffeine stream this morning, but I think it's that cyclical thing where, and it applies to the special educational needs cycle as well. You kind of assess what's going on, take a snapshot, look at it, you internalize stuff, and then you do apply it. Because if a kid says to me, I don't want to stand out I assessed a girl last week as my job. I don't want to stand out as a dyslexic kid because it's embarrassing. Why would I use a computer when I'm the only kid? No. So I'm not going to then say every child who has dyslexia has to use a computer in class as a standard like rule, because I know that some of the kids I teach would be mortified by doing that. So my professional practice is then I take that under my research as well, because I know if I'm doing research in a classroom, I'm not going to be like sit next to the dyslexic kid and be like, hi, you're my buddy for this lesson, because that's not right, is it? You don't want to embarrass or make somebody feel small. And I think having been a classroom teacher for like a bajillion years has influenced how I do research with that. And also talking to the kids, when you do talk one-to-one with a kid carefully, discreetly, sensitively, and they're telling you, my teacher still embarrassed me, well, that of course that reflects my practice, because I'm like, I've got year 7 in front of me last thing in the afternoon. I'm not going to be like, hello dyslexic child, how's your reading today? Now read on the spot. It's just not fair. It's that ethical, respectful underpinning of life, surely, not just research. Like, as my little 2-year-old said the other day, it's absolutely douchey. Said as a 2-year-old, it's not, I've broken my child by teaching the word douchey, but it's really not kind, it's not respectful to belittle somebody, and that underpins every methodology, classroom practice I do. Hopefully I get it right, to just treat people properly.
Do you sometimes feel that when you are this practitioner researcher and you're playing these 2 or 3 different roles in that one situation, do you sometimes feel that you have to push the researcher into the bottom drawer and be teacher, consultant, advisor, supporter first?
Yeah, it depends who I'm working with, I think. If I'm working with a family and it's about their child in that particular setting, now you address whatever they need you to address. And yeah, absolutely. Because again, you're dealing with people. You're not dealing with big data when you're dealing with an individual family or an individual setting. You can kind of have an idea of trends. You can have an overview of what things might do or be, or people aren't numbers, in it. Like, you have to be adaptable and flexible in it. I don't know, I'm like a broken record. It's respect. I've turned into my mother and or Aretha Franklin. Like, it's just, you've got to treat people properly and individually and listen. 2 ears, 1 mouth, use them in proportion. That's what matters, I think.
Yes, no, I totally understand that. Can I just ask you, how would you like to see the field of practice as research develop as a field, but also for your own practice as research? How do you think that you're going to develop your own practice as research?
I think in general, what I would like is the government to actually have created, they run all these consultations. There's an SEN consultation recently been done. And they say they listen to schools, they say they listen to practitioners, but it genuinely doesn't feel like they do. The reason I did a PhD 10 years ago was because when I was reading stuff while I was in Barnsley, it was like, oh, these people have got a PhD, they've got a doctor in front of them, I'm going to get me one of them, because then they'll listen to me. And sadly, that's still the impression I have. People shouldn't treat me different because I've got a PhD, because I'm still a wally at times. It's stupid. But it has opened doors that should have been opened by me having been a Senko, or me having taught in a classroom for 10 years, because classroom teachers know their craft. Children know their journeys. But the powers that be, for whatever reason, well, that's a different argument. The powers that be and those who hold the capacity to rewrite policy, to do define policy, somehow just won't seem to listen. So that's what I want for researchers' practice, is that we have big data, we have kind of external experts, because it matters, but jolly well listen to people doing the job. And I think then that comes partly, as I say, what I said before, I've stayed in the classroom as long as I can. I finish in 2 weeks at school because I'm human and I can't do everything and I'm knackered. For myself, what I would like is to keep working with kids and keep tutoring, so that at least I'm working with kids living the journey. And I just want to keep shouting at the government. And I'm going to the House of Lords in a few weeks with my role as a trustee from the British Dyslexia Association, which is like a massive privilege. The House of Lords thing, whether we met in a Holiday Inn, a pub car park, I don't care. It's the people, and whatever, that it's the people that matter. And so I'm lucky that I've got the ear of people that make policy. That's a mental privilege that I'm really grateful for. And I just want to keep my hand in with that. I think just keep rattling cages respectfully and calmly and generally as politely as I can. Have my moments, but yeah, that's what I'd like for me. And then hopefully that then would fit into the whole idea of you listen to people that are doing the job, touching wood. that's the ideal.
Thank you. I think, when you said that you feel, that people were kind of treating you differently to, pre-doctorate and after doctorate, that kind of, again, goes back to probably the value of practice as research in a way, because Absolutely. As a practitioner, you didn't count, but as somebody with a doctorate, you're suddenly an academic and suddenly you do count.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, isn't it? Because having a doctorate doesn't make me clever. It just means I'm a stubborn bugger and I was jolly well going to get a PhD. Yes, of course I'm clever, but I'm also tenacious and stubborn. And I was a tenacious, stubborn Senko, and I'm a tenacious and stubborn teacher. Those quality attributes haven't changed. And I taught while I was doing my PhD as well. I thought at the time I didn't get funding and I was like, nah. But actually 2020 hindsight kept me in the classroom. So I wasn't any different as a teacher, you know, as a person, just for having a doctorate. I was a bit poorer, but
Yeah.
it shouldn't make people treat you differently. My husband finds the same. Mr. Dr. Ross is also a doctorate person. He works at a uni, and he says academics, people engage with him differently. He's like he does learning participation, and he says it's easier to engage with some of the kind of more academic bods because they treat him, because he has that credence, that set of letters after his name,
Yes.
that just meant he did mass spectroscopy for an awful lot of his life for 3 years. I don't really understand his PhD, it was chemistry. It doesn't mean he's any better as a person, it just means he studied a bit longer and is stubborn, stroppy, and worked out on it.
But it's
Teachers
interesting
are stubborn,
to
stroppy, and work hard differently.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's just interesting that that seems to be kind of one of the things that a lot of people struggle when they're doing practice as research. I mean, the ethical, dilemmas that we are facing, the different hats that we wear in that same situation, all of those things seem to, be irrespective of disciplinary conventions. And then, like you say, there is this added thing that actually the practitioner knowledge is secondary to the scholarly academic knowledge, and that's a shame in many ways, because it's like you were saying at the beginning, the difference between qualitative and quantitative work is not that that they're not valuable, they're just valuable in different ways. And for me, practitioner knowledge and scholarly knowledge is just a different quality of knowledge. It doesn't mean that one is better quality than the other.
And I think it's something like education though. Your practitioner knowledge is your academic knowledge. I honestly think, like, I didn't know what epistemology and ontology was because I did engineering, and you hit stuff. You don't touch on that. But like, it's the letters after my name. Because if I'd read a load of books, I could have still learned all the philosophy stuff that I do now. It's the letters after my name that makes the difference, or before my name. It's calling myself Doctor, and Dr. Ross spells dross, load of rubbish that in British English, dross. Doesn't mean I'm any better. It just means I've got a different set of qualifications. Chartered teachers, there's the I'm a member of it as well, the Chartered College of Teaching in the UK at the minute. The level of professional knowledge, professional development that people have to do, that's what my colleagues are doing all the pathway at the minute. It's phenomenal. They're amazing. It's really in depth, and they're going to be chartered teachers now. In a lot of professions, being chartered is brilliant. It's really high end. But I speak not. I don't malign my colleagues. Au contraire, I totally respect my colleagues. They're epic. They'll still not get the same doors open to them as a chartered teacher as I have, just because it says doctor in front of my name. And that is absolutely disgraceful. It's disgraceful, because to be a chartered teacher is meaty. To be an accomplished teacher, if you're on the upper pay line, you are an accomplished teacher.
I agree with you. And I think
apparently this is cathartic.
No, well, that's good. But in many ways, for me, this is what I'm trying to do with the Practice as Research Network, is trying to kind of show to people, actually, there is something here that is valuable, that's important, that's relevant in so many different ways. And yes, it's not the end all, because like you said, we still need quantitative work, we still need like conventional randomized controlled trials, all the rest of it. But actually, not to dismiss the kind of work that people like us are doing.
For sure, absolutely, exactly that. And I think, I don't know, I just think we just need to keep rattling cages. Stuff like, I'm actively not in a uni. Like, I don't really want to be a uni academic, because I get to do what I like when I like. It's quite exciting. It's terrifying, because say my last salary is in 6 weeks, but like, I can do what I like when I like. And I think what's really important for people that are indies and people who are practitioners as research practitioners is stuff like this, the NCIS, and it's not the TV show, the National Coalition of Independent Scholars. That's really important, because a lot of people that do that are research practitioners. They're doing the job, but they're also kind of geeking it as well, in a good way. And I think scholarly organizations that are not like university ones are really important. In unions, teaching unions, if you're a nurse, like the Nursing and Midwifery Council, I think it's called. These, I can't remember, but like, or the psychology societies, I think these big professional organizations are really an important link between the kind of policy, theoretical, academic-y stuff and them that are doing the role as well. My dad does a lot of interviewing for the Institute of Mechanical Engineers, and he's like, a lot of the stuff he does is bridging kind of where people are applying research to their proper engineering stuff, and there's no reason why other jobs can't do, jobs, professions, fields can't do that. I just think we need to shout about it a bit more, a lot more politely.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much, Helen. It's been really, really nice talking to you. It was a really interesting conversation, and I'm always surprised how quickly these conversations go. It's been great to have you on here, and I would like to say thank you very much. For talking to us about your definition of practice as research, and I'm sure we'll hear more of and about your work in due course as well.
Cool. Thanks for having me. It's been lovely. Really appreciate it.